This is an audiobook recording of Wolfgong Goes to Hell, a short story that was written by Wolfgang Drake, narrated by Wolfgang Drake. Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Wolfgong. So I'm in hell. Apparently, my life of torturing living beings by sentencing their still alive bodies to an unconsenting life of physical manipulation over a bad cause was like a bad thing or whatever. So I'm in hell now. Gotta be honest, guys, I'm not the biggest fan. Like, I've been to some pretty uncool places, and this definitely cracks the top 5. So I'm gonna break down everything that makes hell really suck, from the sinners, the atmosphere, the punishments, and just like the general vibe that hell gives off. Because this really isn't great. Alright, let's start off with the environment. So apparently, Dante Alighieri predicted it perfectly. There really are 9 layers, and they've remained consistent since 1321, and no, I'm kidding. No, it's just one flat plane of red mud with fire everywhere. Sometimes the red mud forms mountains, which go up to the roof. This means you spawn in an area, and you're pretty much stuck in that area. There's like lava and demons and flying bats and all that hell stuff, but only at the top of the red mud mountains. The lava inexplicably just like stops flowing eventually. I don't know how that happens. I've asked around and nobody else seemed to know either. So hell is divided into 120 flat planes of red mud. Each plane is somewhat symbolic of a bad thing you did, but it's not too strict. Instead of adding more planes, they just make the planes larger. That's strange. Also, I've heard a rumor of a 121st plane, but I like 120 more because 121 has 2 factors, while 120 has 8. These are the sorts of things you think about in hell. There's coal lumps all over the floor, which a lot of sinners use to write, "Help me!" and "I'm sorry!" and "Please, God, forgive me!" and all those sorts of things. But I use it to write out every factor of 33,550,336. If you're curious, I'll put those in the description, I guess. I'm sure we've collectively found the perfect numbers up to 27, but it's not like there's any form of easily accessible, simple to make, clear, understandable form of media that could be recorded in hell and then brought back to Earth. Oh well. Anyway, what else? Oh yeah, sometimes spikes form on the roof of the red mud because of the heat given off from the lava. Then those spikes can melt off, fall down, and impale someone towards the ground. We also, like, don't have healthcare or hospitals or anything, so when the spike gets removed, they're kind of just, like, stuck like that for the rest of eternity, unless they can write and perform a song to Satan to heal them. Oh yeah, speaking of, Satan sucks, man. Like, can this guy chill out? He's always like, "Oh, I'm better than God. They'll see it." Like, shut up. We get it. You think you're better than God. Well, you're not. You're evidently not. Please, God, let me out. Anyway, yeah, I don't really care for Satan. Like, he gives us actual jobs to do. He could, but he doesn't. Working towards a goal and achieving that goal is the fundamental step towards human happiness. But Satan chooses not to let us work towards things that would actually help, like, oh, I don't know, healthcare. He could hire doctors or whatever, but he chooses not to. No, actually, no, I'm wording that wrong. Instead of choosing not to, he deliberately goes out of his way to make it harder for us to work together. What, does he not want us to feel happy or fulfilled? Is he trying to punish us for our sins? I pray every day for salvation from God. Alright, but sometimes he actually does come around. He flies around with his jetpack, flying through the red mud mountains and deflecting any rocks or coal thrown at him. Don't worry, the red mud regenerates whenever he flies into it, because of course it does. We wouldn't want sinners from plane 37 interacting with sinners from plane 116, now would we? Why do we care about that? We're all sinners! A crime committed for 5 years does not equate 5,000 years of unbearable torture. You know, there's been a lot of, like, non-Satan talk in this paragraph, but I'm making a lot of it up as I go. I had a script I wrote on the red mud with the coal, but other sinners vandalized it. Some of them tried to clear out the blasphemy and the anti-hell sentiments, which is understandable. Some of them circled over the anti-hell sentiments, which is understandable. And some sinners just, like, wrote their own messages over top of it. Like, they have room. Alright, Satan. So he's got, like, laser blasters and jetpacks and machines to make it rain money and t-shirt cannons, but obviously we're not actually allowed to wear the t-shirts. What are you, insane? Oh yeah, not wearing any kind of clothes goes for the women also, but after the 10,000th old woman with a gaping wound around her lungs, you pretty much stop caring about whether or not the sinner you're interacting with is wearing clothes. You're only allowed to wear 2 kinds of clothes. You either wear nothing or 2 very heavy jackets. Understandably, most sinners choose not to wear anything. So you might be wondering, how do these rules get enforced? Well, Satan just flies on in, picks you up, and well, the specific thing he does varies. Like, the specific punishment is usually something in between verbally abusing you to throwing you through a red mountain so hard that you fly through to another plane. I haven't had that happen to me yet, but I'm sure it's unpleasant. He's also got superhuman strength, which is kind of weird because I thought God hated him. One thing I can say is that I definitely hate him. I got tired of the joke. It's not funny anymore. Yeah, so despite how huge this paragraph is, I haven't really described Satan that much. And whatever, the Bible doesn't either. Oh yeah, the Bible. So they give out Bibles, but nobody like uses them. At least nobody uses them to like pray or read or whatever. I think this might be because they're written with the blood and tears of sinners. Oh yeah, one thing that's cool is that the color of the text is different from book to book, which means each book is made with a different ratio of blood to sweat to tears to whatever other fluids they could find. So this means every book is made from a different collection of fluids, which means there's a lot of blood, sweat, tears, and whatever else down here. I mean, it makes sense, I guess. One thing that is really cool about the Bible is how the margins are really large, which allows you to write your own notes on the pages. Unfortunately, you can't write anything meaningful with just the coal, and you need some kind of pen or feather or whatever. So, oh well. One thing that is cool is that is every page being made of human fluids, it makes it so that eating the paper is really discouraged. This actually isn't cool. This is horrible. Sinners down here are desperate for any kind of food, so obviously we don't get any food. Yeah, thanks, Satan. I don't think people who pretend to like Satan actually have talked to the guy. He's like an asshole, you know what? Oh yeah, this is about the Bibles. So they're just like stored in one of the 6 corners on every plane. It varies from plane to plane where they're stored. Oh, also, planes are hexagonal shaped, not square shaped. Even in hell, hexagons prevail as the best and most important shape. Do you know hexagons are the only shape that can make a perfect grid but can't self-divide? Like a square can be cut into 4 corners, and then a triangle can be cut into 4 triangles. Other shapes can't form perfect grids, since they always have a little runoff space. Like look at an octagonal grid, for example. See the squares? It means the grid isn't perfect. I actually tested the theory that hexagons couldn't self-divide. I was testing it for 3 days straight, and I got pretty damn tired of hexagons by the 37th hour. So I tried to give myself a break by looking around, but all I could see was more hexagons. And then after that, a couple minutes afterwards, Satan crashed through with a sinner in his hand. Anyway, I also drew a hexagons over a 6-yard by 6-yard grid, which is pretty big. It would be really cool if Bibles were hexagonal in shape, I think. Actually, no, that wouldn't make any sense. Did you know plant cells are somewhat hexagonal in shape? It would be really cool if we could see those, but we get neither glass nor plants down here. Anyway, I strongly recommend you watch a CGP Gray video about hexagons. It's in the description. This segment is supposed to be about the Bibles they hand out, but hexagons are so much cooler. I guess the Bible is a little neat. It gives my eyes something to do outside of imagining hexagons or rubbing them until those funny little lines show up. I'm not actually sure what to say about Bibles or hexagons anymore. Let's move on to the last paragraph. Alright, this final paragraph is the most important one, and the one I find the most significant. If it's one thing you should take from this video, it's this. Get me the fuck out of here! I would sooner repent to every single puppet, human, and thing I've ever interacted with than spend another day in here. I'm sure you've heard the idea circulating around online that, oh, one bad thing does not equate an eternity of punishment, and I can absolutely admit, the things I did were awful, and they could equate some, 5 years of hell, which is more time than I spent in the program, by the way. But you see, I can admit this, which means I was 100% in the wrong, which means I've been rehabilitated, and I'm ready to enter heaven or nothingness. However, if I've counted right, then I spent the last 719 years in hell! I've managed to keep most of my body alive because I try not to expose myself, and I guess I've just gotten lucky or whatever. But that's at least 714 more years than I should have spent here. Here's an idea. Nothingness! Just no afterlife. Just a black, empty void. Because no matter how miserable that is, I'm sure it's somehow less miserable than an eternity of dehumanization. I'm not gonna be out of here until someone finally breaks through the miles and the miles of red blood above us. Actually, no! That's gonna be patched! I can't even explain to you how long an eternity is. Hell, I can't even explain how long 700 years is. It is an unfathomably long amount of time. I've never been more passionate about anything in my life. Get me out of here right now! Well, yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I guess I'll be in hell until God finally does something and gets down here and fixes this! Okay, bye.